And it's every bit as dangerous as it looks. In ski jumping, in all winter sports, the pace is hotting up now as the date draws near for the 1976 Winter Olympics, a $70 million spectacular over ice and snow, where split-second decisions often mean the difference between the winner's rostrum and the first aid tent. The ski jumping, the slalom, downhill racing, the bob run and the skating will all take place virtually in the shadow of the magnificent Bergisel jump outside the Austrian host town of Innsbruck. It'll be the second time within 12 years that the Olympics have come to Innsbruck, and though they need only a fraction of the organization of the summer events, the capital of the Tyrol has been busy setting the stage. These flats are part of the new facilities at Innsbruck. With the terrorist outrages at Munich in mind, they've been planned to help security forces do their job. But at the same time, there are few obtrusive security measures to spoil the sporting atmosphere. Apart from entrants in the cross-country competitions, all 2,000 or so athletes will be housed in the village. When the games are over, the flats will provide additional housing for the town. It's part of Innsbruck's scheme to keep the cost down. As well as the flats, other non-sport facilities have been earmarked for reuse. For instance, the press HQ will have become a bus depot by the time the newsmen have filed their final stories and these flagpoles are bare again. Since 1964, the terrifying Bergisel ski jump's been altered. Now it's easier for competitors to get back to the top. But of course, the real test's coming down, sometimes flying as high as 90 meters over the heads of 60,000 spectators. This has been one big problem: snow. Strangely, for a town which owes much of its prosperity to its magnificent natural ski slopes, Innsbruck occasionally suffers from an embarrassing lack of it. It happened before their last Olympics, and now it's happening again. Near strategic points on the bare hillsides, recently fanned by a persistent warm breeze, Austrian soldiers have been working overtime at Operation Snowlift. 500 trucks have been running in snow from the Brenner Pass near the Italian border. They've put in well over 500,000 working hours in their fight against the friendly weather, and if it hadn't been for the help of the army, the bill would have been much higher than the $250,000 spent so far. The most important rescue scene has been here at the Pacha Kofel. Early spring-like weather had melted the surface down to the grass until the imported snow arrived. The organizers actually considered coating the whole downhill slope with a piece of artificial snow, but decided against it. Conditions were better the previous year, when the refurbished Bergisel jump was given its pre-Olympic tryout. Almost $700,000 has gone into the Bergisel jump, but it provides an awesome spectacle, one which will draw the biggest crowds when the Olympics open on February the 4th. In fact, it's here, within sight of the town's cemetery, that the 76 opening ceremony will be performed. And no matter how emotional that occasion will be, it's unlikely to create as large a lump in the throat as these antics. In 1964, competitors who survived the 90-meter jump down and still had enough nerve to want another go had to climb 250 steps for the privilege. But this time, a modern elevator's been provided to take them up to the launching platform. Just as sensational as ski jumping, the bob run. The bob run is entirely new. It's the first in the world to cater for both bobsleighs and toboggans. The designers say safety has been one of their major considerations, and so it should be. A four-man bob takes only 55 seconds to cover over 1,200 meters along this course. And that journey includes a spine-chilling loop called the Kreisel, or Child's Top. It's an apt name, for the curve hurls the bob through a turn of 280 degrees. Another feature of the run, it's refrigerated, so there's always a slippery surface, no matter what the weather. The three best fancied teams are Austria's, West Germany's and the Swiss. Seefeld, 30 miles from Innsbruck, is the Nordic skiing course which cost almost $300,000 to prepare. The action here won't be as dramatic as on the bob run, but in their own way, the cross-country events are just as tough, just as demanding, probably the most grueling on the Olympic schedule. Traditionally, Norway breeds some of the best cross-country skiers, and for the coming games, hopes are high for a gold. One of the strongest candidates is Ivar Formoe, a 24-year-old engineering student from Oslo. Formoe has won the Norwegian National Cross-Country Championship over 30 kilometers for 3 years. At the last Olympics in Japan, Formoe figured in several events. He took the silver medal in the 4x10 kilometers relay and the bronze for the 15 kilometers. Since then, he says, he's improved both in technique and style, and he's looking forward to the competition. Formoe is just part of a well-fancied Norwegian contingent. Also going, Oddvar Bra, the world's most successful cross-country skier in 1974. Bra became the only man in the history of the sport to score a Scandinavian hat-trick, taking titles in Sweden, Finland and Norway. Already this year, he's won at an international meeting in Oslo. When he's not training, he works on his father's farm in the mountains south of Trondheim. Perhaps that's where he builds up those leg muscles. Tor Svensberget is a specialist in the biathlon, a combination of shooting and cross-country skiing. At the last two Winter Olympics, gold medals in the biathlon went to another Norwegian, Magne Solberg, who's since retired and left Svensberget to follow in his ski tracks. Svensberget has had mixed fortunes in the past.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
His best result was first prize in the World Junior Championship, but afterwards his luck ran out until last year when he hit form again and was chosen for the Olympic team. Now he's one of the likeliest competitors to bring home a gold for Norway. Opposition in the Nordic events is expected from the Soviet Union, East Germany and Sweden. But to many people, the excitement of winter sports means the slalom, with aces like Ingmar Stenmark from Sweden showing how it should be done. This was Stenmark at Garmisch in West Germany, a month before the opening of the Olympics. Stenmark finished only third, but he's hotly tipped for top honours at Innsbruck. The brilliant Fausto Radici. Even with the handicap of being blind in one eye, the 22-year-old student took a stunning victory, pushed the Italians higher in World Cup ratings, and pointed the way towards Olympic domination. The congratulations were well deserved. Radici's countryman, Piero Gross, with the fastest descent of the event, and he came second overall. The Italian team posed the greatest threat to the all-conquering Austrians at Innsbruck. Apart from having possibly the best men's and women's teams, they'll be on home ground and have tremendous support. Wengen in Switzerland provided an ideal pipe opener for the Olympic downhill events. There were huge crowds on the famed Lauberhorn, the longest and most dreaded track in the world, over 4,000 meters of it, dropping along the way by more than 1,000. The man everyone had come to see was Austria's Franz Klammer. On peak form, he won by over 2 seconds at an average of nearly 60 miles an hour. The Lauberhorn takes over 2 minutes 40 seconds from start to finish, and that's for an expert with a strong stomach and even stronger nerves. The slightest loss of concentration would send a skier flying, with skis flailing like a helicopter. It takes a really brave man to stay crouched for speed down the length of the piste's endless straights. Klammer, lower down the slope and not easing up a fraction. Afterwards, he said he'd skied as perfectly as seldom before, certainly the man to beat for a gold. The slalom also turned out to be ideal practice for the Olympics. For here too, lack of snow was a problem, and officials had to harden the tracks with cement. Piero Gross was beaten into second place by a margin that shows just how close competition has become, losing by a wafer-thin 0.03 of a second. Christian Neureuter of West Germany flashing through the poles to take third place on aggregate. Stenmark of Sweden again, and another World Cup win. His total time was 1 minute 40.96 seconds, and his comment, "To win that close, you have to be lucky." Stenmark, the Austrians and the Italians are all likely to figure prominently on the results board at Innsbruck. But for France, prospects aren't so good this time. The French ski team went through an upheaval 2 years ago when half the team was fired. Now only one man has a chance to wave the tricolour, Patrice Pelat-Finet. When he's not skiing, Patrice rides a trials bike. It's good for practicing balance, training the muscles, the eyes, and for concentration. On Pelat-Finet's doorstep at Villard-de-Lans are some vast ski slopes where sportsmen fade to ant-like proportions. His favourite spot to practice is this 2,000-foot track high above Grenoble. And though Pelat-Finet may be tipped only for a top 10 placing in Olympic company, his style and grace still make the descent look deceptively simple. A picture postcard view, Pras-sur-Arly, more natural skiing country and the home of another French hopeful, Patricia Monet, who runs her own sports shop. Patricia came third at Les Gay only 3 weeks before the opening of the Games and helped give the French girls' team a much-needed boost in morale. She was only 15 hundredths behind the winner, despite losing a stick on the way.
Si vous voulez les garder,
je vais faire la tentative cet après-midi.
faites l'essai
Et ensuite, quand je rentre, je vous dirai ce que j'en pense. Si j'ai encore mes deux jambes, mes deux bras. Bon, alors.
There's been some criticism of the training methods of the French women's team, but there doesn't seem to be much doubt about the way Patricia handles her skis. Another ski shop owner and another medal prospect in the French women's team, Danielle de Bernard, who shops at the Aimé-la-Plagne ski station, handy for training on the slopes. Danielle's speciality is the slalom. In 1972, she won the silver at the Japan Winter Olympics, and though later her results took a dip, just recently at Les Gay, she skied brilliantly to score her first victory in 3 years. She said afterwards that the win hadn't come as a surprise because she'd been working her way onto form. That win, coupled with a successful outing at Les Diablerets in Switzerland, has given the French girls fresh hope and 21-year-old Danielle a second win. The achievements of France's strongest entry, young Fabienne Serra, on display at the hotel of her parents in Alpes d'Huez. Somewhere among the cups and souvenirs is Fabienne's most treasured possession, a trophy for the World Giant Slalom Championship. More recently, she gave France its first win of the season at Cortina in Italy, and she's now standing 5th in the World Cup. The day we visited Fabienne, she'd strained a tendon in her heel. It was painful enough to keep her off her skis, but not too serious to affect her fitness for the Olympics. To a top skier, just as vital as physical fitness is mental alertness, and most experts agree that Fabienne has that ability to adjust herself psychologically for the big race at Innsbruck. The Olympic dress rehearsal for the women's downhill race attracted 64 skiers from 14 countries. Austria's Anne-Marie Moser-Pröhler was off form, though she managed second place. A World Cup record holder, Anne-Marie dominated women's skiing for 6 years, but this time she won't compete at Innsbruck. Canadian Kathy Kreiner found the first turn too tricky and failed to complete the course. Marie-Thérèse Nadig of Switzerland. Marie-Thérèse, who's the current Olympic champion, could well pull off another first this time. She and her teammate, Bernadette Saarbrücken, have been skiing well all season, so the Swiss can count on a really strong female team for Innsbruck. Some of the closest competition of all will be among the women. As well as the Swiss team, the Austrian girls are showing great promise, and from West Germany there are the Mittermeier sisters, Rosie and Ava. Action too from the speed skaters. The Olympic ice stadium's bound to see a confrontation this year between East and West, America and the Soviet Union. But at Innsbruck, it'll be a less dangerous version of the Cold War. Russia currently holds world records in 8 of the 9 speed skating events, but the United States was second only to Holland in the '72 Olympics, and they've duly picked up the Russian gauntlet. The United States rates its chances highly in events for both men and women, but Russian magazines have recently proclaimed the leading position of Soviet speed skaters is without doubt. Time will tell. While West Germany and Sweden aren't likely to offer any challenge to the superpowers, Norway will, in the shape of this man, Sten Stensen, a truly remarkable all-rounder who took 2 bronze medals in Japan, over 5,000 meters and over 10,000. Thanks to over 4 hours of training each day, Stensen's now running faster than any other skater in the world. He's entering for 3 different distances in the games, and he says he has a chance of winning them all. If his record is anything to go by, that's no idle boast. World champion in 1974, European champion last year. Stensen's a lieutenant in the army, and he says his sights are firmly fixed on the winning line. Another skater just as dedicated, Christophe Simon, who comes from Les Contamines near Saint-Gervais. Christophe, who's 15, will be figure skating for France. He's been trained by his stepfather, and he fits in practice just as often as school studies allow. Christophe's form of skating might look less arduous than that of Sten Stensen, but the discipline's just as severe, and it too is a lonely sport. Christophe Simon up against the unbeatable Russians in February. But for other Olympic competitors, travelling over ice and snow isn't always as elegant or as safe.